once I make a commitment, that's my vocation, you know? And so I just, the couple that just came through, that just got married, and I said, how do you guys feel that you're not discerning anymore? How do you feel that like you wake up every day and you're married and that this is God's will for your life, and that you know? I think a lot of people have anxiety in their life, like, because they don't really know God's will for them, you know? But there was just real freedom in this couple. Like, yeah, this is God's will for me, you know? So even if it's tough, or even if something happens, or even, no, this is what God wants, you know? And you can't miss that if you're just faithful to it every day.
Poco a poco vamos a llegar. Somos peregrinos and you know that's who we are. We make our way. Hey, hey.
Hey, I'm Father Mark Mary.
Hey, everybody, I'm Father Innocent.
And I am Father Angelus.
I didn't count down all the way from 3.
You started it.
Yeah, I was
Father,
reading the notes and I realized it was my turn to say my name.
Father Angelus had a suspicious look, mischievous. I thought he was going to try and jump in again.
That's my common look to you.
All right, so we're back, and we are still at the part of just kind of have a busy summer, and a lot of us are in the air, and so
sorry, PT.
Father PT is not here, and we're not doing like seasonal take breaks thing.
Have we thought about that, by the way? I'm getting kind of fatigued.
yeah, you'll be fine.
We've thought about it, and we've made a decision.
Whoa, who made a decision? No one asked me what I thought.
So we're just still recording through the summer in advance. And what do you guys have anything you need to share?
Yeah, I kind of want to share. I mean, a lot of good things going on in the friary. We just had what we call a fancy word, like a dispositio. A lot of brothers got new assignments. And so this coming...
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, no, this coming year, there's going to be some moves at our friary, some new brothers coming in, some brothers moving on. And then we get a new crop of postulants this coming September. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. Yeah. But the postulants are getting ready to move out. So I'm kind of feeling that. But it's always, it's such a blessing. Time goes by so quick. But I think the guys are ready to go novitiate. So it's happening.
I thought you were going to make the big. Do we ever already talked about this? That Father Mark Mary is your vicar now?
Oh yeah,
I thought that's
definitely official.
Have we talked about that?
We talked about it kind of.
Yeah, but it's real now. We just got done with the house meeting together. You were sitting at my right. You were
taking notes. Got a piece of papers in front of me. Can't just zone
doing
out.
The whole permission stuff. People asking you for stuff.
Yeah. We'll talk about.
I was really proud of you.
Thanks. I don't know what you're talking about, but I appreciate that. We'll talk about it because next week's episode is going to be on obedience. So we'll prelude that by
just talking about your new role
about
here.
And some of my experience with it. Already, I was. It became official July 1st. This episode comes out a number of weeks after that, or like later. But and we're already past that. But I was with some friends in New Hampshire, and they had a vicar party. And made dessert. They made a crown that said vicar on it. And
bro, I love that.
These are pictures of that. We got.
There's no. I mean, I have one. I don't think there was any pictures. I was surprised by it. I was ready for them. And there was some fireworks, some little fireworks in their backyard.
Bro, I love that.
We were not in New York. We were in a different state.
The vicar party.
The vicar party.
That's awesome. I love it.
I just a little highlight of the last couple of weeks. I recently did a wedding in Ohio. 2 Damascus missionaries, or former Damascus missionaries. So it was awesome. It was just wonderful. We don't do a lot of weddings, so when we do, it's just a gift. And so Damascus World was there, just my friends from there, and Brother Lazarus of our community, his brother, so his family were there. And so it was just wonderful to see them. And it was just such a gift.
And if I recall, looking back on the wedding, that was your first wedding homily?
No, so this is my second wedding. That was my second wedding, yeah.
But if I recall, to quote you, you referred to it as the best homily ever given.
Whoa.
At a wedding?
In the last, since our Lord. Is that what you said?
Since our Lord. I did not say that. Not even we're close to it.
But you felt good about it.
Yeah, it was a gift. It was a real gift.
I heard it was like a 25-minute homily.
That was shocking to me. It didn't feel that long.
Is
when
it
the couple,
true?
It was awesome that on the way back from their honeymoon, the couple actually drove through New York and was with the brothers. So the brothers, you guys all got the update from the couple, which was just funny. So.
Do you know this whole thing? I don't know if it's a Catholic thing. It doesn't seem to be about the priests trying to get out of the way, at the time of their first kiss.
I don't know, but I heard you talk about this with someone you're going to do a wedding for later on, that you don't want to photobomb the first kiss.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like it's actually a universal, everyone talks about this, or it's But this is where we had some other visitors, our Lincoln visitors, who made a joke about me being already so close to the ground I could just like dive out of the way or something like that.
It's like your height definitely serves you well. So you kind of missed the first kiss anyway because you're so short.
You got to just take a deep breath, and before you announce the final couple, like just to get their names right, and you want to get that right, like
Mr. and Mrs.
My brothers and sisters. It is my joy for the first time to introduce to you
Mr. and Mrs.
Joshua and Megan Vina, or whatever. The thing, I mean, it just like I was worrying about that part the entire mass. Like if you don't deliver on that line, mercy.
Yeah. And I've seen it where, because like, and it could have happened in your situation where they like knew the groom and like the groom's family and said the groom's brother instead.
Oh, you guys know about this little tip I picked up on my first baptism? You actually have sticky notes inside of all these things.
Yeah.
And you just like stick a sticky note, even if you know the couple, just so you always have reference to the name, because like, what's the baby's name? What's the couple's name? What's
1,000,000%. Yeah.
It's just so super helpful. Because I've also been places where friars have gotten the names wrong, or the moms and dads, and like, totally made up the moms and dads names, or like, all these different things.
There's a priest recently who used the bride's last name because he was friends with that family.
Yeah.
So you just kind of want to, and everybody laughed and thought it was funny, but
I mean, I did my second wedding homily as a deacon. I was just a little bit more, in demand than you, Father Evangelist. But it was, I knew the bride primarily, at least her name, through email. I knew her in person, but knew her name through email. And it's one that like with the French pronunciation would be pronounced different than it would in English, but it's also like a common name in English. And so I said it wrong.
But you struggle with those kind of things. Like
what are you talking about?
Remember the whole, remember that, what is it? Cosette?
Oh yeah. It was kind of something like that. It was something like that. Cosette.
Yeah. Cosette.
Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
And so I did this part of like honoring the family while saying like their last name, this family, that family, whatever. And I was just saying it wrong. And I didn't know until the reception afterwards, and I felt
your honoring had no effect because you were saying their name wrong.
Yeah, so now that's part of the questions I ask. This
was an awesome wedding though, because it's truly like missionary. Like the bride gave her witness at the reception, like fire. Like they weren't wasting any opportunity to just preach gospel, which was just cool. So it was just awesome.
Weddings are fun.
Yeah, they are.
Me and Father Gabriel Manuel could have been. They're photos of us riding around the property where the reception was at on a tandem bike.
Hopefully those photos, whatever.
Never are seen by anyone.
I was supposed to be doing a wedding, but because of one of Father Innocent's meetings, I'm not doing that wedding.
Wow, he just brought that. Yeah. Well, you're the vicar now. You could pull some. You just pull a fight.
I'm just playing. It's important stuff. All right. So we have an update. Are you ready for the update?
I am ready for the update.
So the people of God that we said would be faithful and help provide for us have been faithful in helping to provide. On. So we have some good feedback from your donation. So thank you for that. It's a legit part of the Franciscan privilege of begging and then having people support. And it's just like, there's like a scripture talking about like the weight of glory. It's like an overwhelming, like I don't deserve this kind of thing. People are so good. So thank you, people of God, for being extremely generous. The reality is we're still a little bit short of where we want to be. And so we're just going to, for 4 more episodes, we're going to like directly ask for you to consider giving a monthly gift so that we can get right at the number we need to make it each month and not have to keep asking. And we got like a big, somebody asked to like do a big ad. We were able to say no to that because we said that this is what we're going to do. So thank you for that. And so if you can still consider, and again, for the next 4 episodes, we'll be asking, and then we'll take probably hopefully until the new year, we won't have to ask again, and we'll see where we're at, give an update. But maybe this could be the last 4 times we have to ask for money ever again.
Ever again.
Which would be also a gift. So thank you for that. So thank you for your generosity. And what else do we have to say?
Where do they go if they want to donate?
Oh, go to spiritjuice.org/poco. Probably the link is also in the description. Nice one.
Great.
So, but yeah, I think we're looking for 300. We got 150 people.
Which is awesome.
By this point. So that's significant.
Yeah,
all right.
So good.
what we're going to talk about today, this is another hot take.
I always get nervous about these episodes.
Videos. But it's not like
Because you don't have control. It's more of a conversation. Doing other things, you have to let go.
It is unique. It is a
makes
little
me
bit
uncomfortable.
good. It's good for you. But when I close to the time of putting out that first hot takes episode, I was thinking about changing the title to like pastoral proposals, because it's not
That's kind of lame.
That's like a wordy thing you would make.
but it's also
You're good
more
with
what it
words.
is. It's all what it is. Because hot takey is a little bit more like we're gonna be edgy for the sake of edgy, and like,
Which I'm not putting past us.
He's pretty edgy.
but I don't feel like anything that we're saying is intended to be like edgy or to have like some sort of like
effect or something.
edgy
like
retort or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's just, we're going to talk about a few things, some of which may just not maybe new to people, I suppose, or a little bit more on the head of an issue than we typically do. But we just finished up a couple of our, what are those called? Processing sessions, public processing sessions, and realized like some questions came up from it, because we're talking about healing, things like that. And there is we couldn't do it all and it being exhaustive in it. And I don't know that we're like you guys probably a lot more than me, but are like 1,000% sort of like, we're not counselors or therapists, whatever,
exactly.
you know? But there is a great podcast by Dr. Bob Schutz and Jake Kim, who, and a lot of what we took, I think, was Dr. Bob.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out the Restore the Glory podcast, that could be a great place to go. If there's like questions raised and you want some more information about what to do, how to do it, what it looks like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Dr. Bob and Sister Miriam and that crew are doing incredible things. They help their service to the church is incredible. We use a lot of their stuff in formation, so we're very much formed by them. So you're going to see the inspiration definitely from them.
All right, and so here's what we're going to talk about today. You can't tell the truth. To tell someone the truth they are not ready to receive does violence to the person. Quote, Father Innocent, previous episode. That's what we're gonna talk about. That. Can you miss your vocation? Which was more surprising. It was less clear when we talked about it than I thought it might have been. A little follow up from Father Isaac conversation and that whole thing about me praying for people and them having babies. And I'll explain that. Life is a struggle. Make sure it's the right struggle, picking your battles, etc. And then the last one, if we have time, is we're just going to talk about shopping a little bit.
I love it.
That one's a little bit more aggressive, but not more aggressive, just more on the head. Okay. Again, Father Innocent, this is something I have as an exact quote from you. To tell someone the truth that they are not ready to receive does violence to the person. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess I would love to tell you what I mean by that, but I do think it's in context. I think, I don't know, just as people, we're called to live in a relationship. We're made for communion. It's just beautiful to know that as a mother, as a father, as a priest, like we're given certain missions in life to really help people and care for people and form people, right? And I just do think this is coming from my own pastoral heart. Like I have just learned a lot about walking with people and how different people are and their personalities, their temperaments, their spiritualities. And not all people are created the same, and everybody has a unique heart and a unique way that they receive love and receive correction. And so I just think there's a value and a reverence we have for people as they are and as God has created them. But on this journey of healing and formation, we're all kind of in the church. The church is always wanting us to go deeper and have conversions, and we do this in context of relationships. But how do we help people? How do you live in a role where you can bless people as a father and a mother, and to say, hey, listen, like I love you enough to help you with this, or to give you this correction, or just to speak a truth into your life. I just think we want to make sure that God is working in situations like this. God's working in my own heart, and God's working in the other person. And I just think to have a reverence for the person, right? This kind of came up in context of my experience in formation. Like I'm walking with a young man, and it's a part of life. You have to, you form children, postulants aren't children, but you're really trying to help them and help them become who God has called them to be. And there's ways that there's going to be difficult conversations. And so what's happening in my own heart as I walk with young men is I'm constantly asking the question, okay, like what is the Lord doing in this person's heart? And what's this person's capacity to receive what I'm saying? Right. And it's not all just about you and what I want, the information I want to tell this person, but there's a real sense, okay, Lord, like, what are you doing here? And right now, what is this? What's going on in this person's heart, and what capacity do they have to receive what I'm saying? Right. So especially it's like if it's a difficult, it's a difficult truth, or it can be a little bit more, kind of have an edge to it, or, I'm trying to think of an example of sometimes in communal life, things come up and you have to tell someone, you have to give someone a correction that the way they're coming across is kind of strong, or they're coming across as disrespectful or rude or things like that. And so you got to give a correction. It's like, hey bro, like when you say this, it comes across in this way, or it comes across as kind of rude or disrespectful. Right. And so what's the best way to tell someone that so they can receive it? Usually, again, that's a small example, but usually it's you just don't want to go in. We're just saying, okay, bro, I have a correction. I'm going to do this. But usually if you again, it's connecting with the person. It's being like helping them to know that they're loved, they're seen, they're like, I'm really for you. And once they grow in that trust, then I can be like, hey, I just noticed the other day you said this to one of the brothers and he was hurt by that. So it's just something you want to like be aware of or be attentive to. If that brother can receive that because they're in a relationship, they know they're loved by me, they know that I'm not constantly just being critical, but they know that there's a real relationship and there's trust, right? But if I'm constantly critical to someone who doesn't trust me, and if I'm critical or again, just like making them a project, and so I'm just constantly like harping on everything they're doing wrong, and they're unable to, they might be shut off to you. They might be unable to receive what you're saying, right? Or if I don't take the time to get to know them, then they're like, oh yeah, sorry, Father, I was having a bad day. Like my mom called me and told me my brother's struggling with this. And I was like, oh, that's why you're struggling. And so there's just this, again, it's just more of a bit broader, and which I'm okay with it for this conversation. It's just you wanting to understand like what's really going on in a person, what they have the capacity to receive, and just kind of being attentive to that or open to that.
Is it okay if I jump in here? One of the things that our friends made fun of me for was asking leading questions, like asking questions to go like just whatever. This is one of those cases where like I had something very specific I want to say, so just say it. I'm just going to say it. Just say it. So thank you for that. But and we'll have a chance.
Because you often will then throw a leading question and we don't answer. We don't say what you want us to say. So why don't you just say what?
Yeah. So thanks for nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm actually just kidding. Just so you know.
I totally receive it.
All right. Because here's a couple of things, right? And I do think we're all on the same page that there is some distinction to be made. Like there are some things that some could be happening or someone could be doing that whether or not they're able to receive it, you still have to address it, right? Mm-hmm. And so this could be something that's like dangerous or self-destructive or whatever it is. Like sometimes you just have to, there are certain significant things that have to be addressed. But like, so for example, pretend you have a friend or a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a roommate who's going to spiritual direction or who is going to counseling or something like that. And they have this struggle and you know about the struggle and you really want this particular thing to get worked out in their life. And then you they give you a little update on how counseling went or how their spiritual direction went. And the counselor or father didn't just say like, you need to stop doing that. Oh, this needs to get adjusted. You're wrong. This is what's happening. And it's all your fault. And part of why is because perhaps like you were just talking about, like that priest or that counselor or that mentor or whatever is like has the long game in mind, and they realize, okay, like I'm continuing to build a relationship. We're journeying together. Yeah. We need to make sure it's like really deeply rooted in trust. And at this point, if I say this thing to them, they're going to shut down. They're going to we're done. Right. And we're not actually going to be making progress. And so there can be this sense of, again, or even like your bishop, like, why isn't your bishop saying or doing this type of thing? And again, there are certain situations which if they can receive it or not, you have to address it publicly. Yeah. And I'm not talking like meta big scope political things at this point. But there is just some a factor that I think we all take into consideration in our walking with people of what are they actually able to receive. And again, consistently encouraging or asking something that they're not actually going to do in the long run, it deteriorates and even kind of breaks your influence on their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just say there's also a lot more than going on than we realize.
Correct.
Right. So you just got to trust the people that are like want to care for people or like people like who really know this person. It's not always as simple as we think it is.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just also good to know.
Just maybe a different context. We do a lot of people who are in relationships with a lot of people who are in ministry. And sometimes especially when you're younger in ministries, the missionaries, the Focus Net, Damascus, like teen missionaries, there's a zeal and intensity to like their desire to proclaim the gospel. This can kind of come into play a little bit. Like, well, you just got to tell them, you just got to preach the truth. You just got to, and there's this like, well, this is a hard conversation, but you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be living that lifestyle, or you shouldn't be there. And you just got to tell them, kind of thing, and in a way, I get that. I get the intensity. I get like, hey, we're preachers of truth, but never has like winning an argument or forcing someone to believe something ever been fruitful in conversion or healing or whatever someone might need. So I think oftentimes in the ministry process too, it's the same things. If I'm in a relationship with someone or someone trusts me and then I have to preach a truth, that's much more likely to be fruitful than just kind of like this intense, zealous, well, I just got to preach the truth. I don't really care if they can receive it or not because I'm preaching the gospel, right? So sometimes that's a little misguided and can be a little hurtful to people where you're just like, oh gosh, like they don't know me. They don't know my issues. They don't know my story. And all of a sudden, all this stuff is coming at me.
Because there's a real person sitting in front of you, right? So when we teach guys about serving the poor, you can't go from 0 to consecration to Mary in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, there's a real person. And what can this person receive that's in front of you? Mm-hmm. Right. And so it takes time. And like, I think of Dolores, who's one of our neighbors and the guys love, but like you learn real quick that Dolores, like we just being with her, loving her, caring for her and just the presence is what opens stuff up. And then it's just beautiful to see but there's a real person. And it's not just about getting your talking points
and an agenda
or your agenda of the gospel and things, because it's all going to come up.
Right.
But can you take a deep breath and just recognize, okay, what can this person who is a child of God sitting in front of me, what can they receive right now? Mm-hmm. Or, and I mean, again, it's just all kind of the same thing, is that it's okay to let go and just know that God's going to work all this out. And if we try to pounce on someone, that's when you can do violence to someone. This person can, and you see it happen real quick. Like when we try to do too much, the person shuts off. You're like, oh man, I just lost them. And now it's, if I could just share, like a couple weeks ago, I had Brother Cole and I had a really difficult experience with one of the neighbors, and it was clear as time went on that they just could not receive what we were saying. And Brother Colby and I had to make a decision, and it was really hard, but make a decision to be like, wow, we're to that point that the more I say, the more it is just like rallying you up. And so we just kind of said, like, it was hard for her because she thought we were like running away and copping out, and God bless her. But it was really hard because I was like, oh man, there's a lot of pain here. And the more I'm saying, I'm just making it worse. And so like as fathers, we just had to like step away and just say, God bless you. And it really was like a tough situation. And I think it's one of those things like, oh man, I'm just poor. But the more I say, that's just not good for you.
Right. Yeah. And right. Even, and this is getting a little bit more on like I don't know, but it's just like, just everything, like you're preaching to a congregation, for example, and all of the truths you're going to preach, but you're like, especially as the pastor, you have a sense of like who's struggling with what, and who just lost a child through a tragedy or a miscarriage and so it's like, maybe the way you talked about redemptive suffering, like to somebody who just lost somebody they loved, you're going to talk about that very differently than to, whatever, a 24-year-old college student who kind of things are going well and they just like, I don't know, are annoyed by their roommate or something.
Sure.
And so like we're taking into account all of that, and it's not, and I think a young sort of judgment on that could, or just not young in age, but it's just like, oh, that's watering down the gospel. It's like, well, is it? It's just sort of, I think, prudently and appropriately communicating the gospel in a way that people can receive it. And I do think there is I think it's a Aquinas thing that I might misquote and misuse, but it's something about like that which is received is received according to the mode of the receiver. Of the receiver.
I think it's a solid quote.
Yeah, I think so.
Did I say?
Yeah.
I usually say it wrong, but anyway,
the
it's
mode
like,
of the receiver.
you have to take into account what the other person's hearing.
Yeah, but I also appreciate you saying that it's not a cop out. Like there's some things that had, like a couple of weeks ago we were at the pro-life vigil and there was protests outside after the Roe v. Wade stuff, and it was intense. And Father Fidelis, CFR, is in there giving a homily, and it was one of the most profound, clear homilies I've heard in a long time about the pro-life movement and what the church teaches. Like that man is preaching, and everyone there in different capacities could receive it. But there are times when you judge that like the truth has to be preached, right? And he did it very well. He didn't like cop out. But that's something, again, it's the pastoral kind of dance there, to know who your sheep are, know who's there, and be okay with that. So we're definitely not copping out, but it's a part of the dynamic who's in front of you.
Yeah. All right. And the second thing with that, kind of Father Ange just touched on it, and this is the more edgy thing to say, is just to have a certain a certain weariness, or just like, okay, like I'm going to just kind of take it and pay attention to it, but not like go full send on it. Like of shepherding advice from those who don't have in-person flocks, if you will. Because it could be a young person, it could be this person or that person who's like saying, here's how we need to speak the truth, and here's what all the Christians need to say, and here's what Father needs to say, and here's what the bishops need to say. And they don't actually they're not pastoring anybody.
They don't have any experience with hearts and people
and
before
so
them.
What you say on the internet, or what you say kind of whatever, like in a lot of different contexts where someone might have this sort of platform and this sort of microphone, well, okay, like that, it can just be oversimplified. It's like, okay, that feels bold, and that feels like on fire, and that feels like zeal for souls and zeal for the truth, and we're not going to water it down. We're not going to take it anymore. But if you're walking with people, and people that you are trying to really kind of shepherd, you're just going to do things in a bit of a more nuanced way. And just, here's the truth, take it or leave it. And if you like it or not, I don't care. Again, in most situations, like, that's not helpful, because that maintaining that relationship, being with people on the journey, understanding the variety of people in your congregation that are listening. And so just to have a little bit of just a little bit of like a sensitivity. Okay, like this is a person who has who's giving a lot of advice on shepherding, who doesn't actually have a congregation that they're shepherding. So maybe they're just not the exact expert on all things with this.
Yeah.
Look at you being edgy. That was edgy. I love it. It's awesome.
But it's also,
be careful.
I just think it's very true.
Yeah. You have to be careful of that.
Yeah.
I think of the confessional teaches us so much, right? Like being with people in their most vulnerable places. Like we come out of seminary and like, okay, like this is like black and white, and it's actually not.
You learn really quickly that it's not.
Yeah. And again, it's not a cop out, but it's just really meeting people and really trying, like, Jesus wants them to receive what they can right now from this experience. And you just learn a lot.
Do you guys know who Jocko is?
Yeah.
Right. So he's kind of like a business coach, leadership guy. And I think that's that's an example of somebody who, I'm not going to vouch for every single thing he's ever said, but he kind of gets the human dynamic. And he talks about how like he went into some place and he was like super hardcore, and here's what we're going to do. And he like alienated himself. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to mature, and I'm going to listen a little bit, and I'm going to have the strategic goals and the long game. And I'm going to stay in relationship, and I'm going to go ahead and maybe be a little quieter at some times because of, I need to make sure I kind of maintain my influence in their life, things like that. And that's like a secular example of, I think, somebody who gets it. And there's other examples of but it's the wisdom of how the truth and bringing people deeper into the truth and deeper into the gospel and charity, what that actually looks in reality with people's given situations.
Yeah, I think great.
Cool. All right. Can you miss your vocation?
And start us off strong.
Why are we asking this question? I'm just kidding.
That's one of because we did. I'm going to say I'll introduce it where it came from, and then I was just kind of surprised by where you guys thought. My general take is that your vocation is the one you entered into.
I like that.
So if you got married, that's your vocation. If you became a priest, like that's your vocation. Okay. Like, and just to kind of go full send into that vocation. And the question like, well, did I miss something? Isn't particularly helpful
or important.
Or it can be like in the marriage one. Okay, I want to get married, but did I, there was this other guy and this other girl in this situation. Like, did I miss my vocation because we broke up? And I just don't think that's generally a helpful question. Okay. But because I was giving this a talk down at that Focus conference, and there was this part, kind of the witness to how like mission works, whatever. And I kind of shared a story of how like I got close to like discerning out because of like some conflict that I just didn't have the like emotional intelligence to deal with. And what I said was, and I almost like lost my vocation. And then I kind of went on to show like, and then all this good stuff happened. And kind of what like was being inferred, which I just afterwards I was a little bit more sensitive to, was this idea that like, oh, if I discerned out in temporary vows, which like is something that's like appropriate, in the church, and I went a different route, like, my life almost would have been wasted, and it's like all this good things that the Lord did, that wouldn't have happened. But I didn't take into account, like, I do think that if I would have discerned out, like the Lord would have met me where I was at. I could have been married. I could have had a great sort of effect, and there would have been a lot of fruit in another direction. So the idea that like, if I discerned out because of that, my life would have been wasted, I don't think that's like proper. And so just trying to have a healthy like integration of what this looks like.
I'm going to let the vocation director go next, then I'll hop on.
This is actually quite a common conversation or common question that people would ask. We get emails from people all the time, maybe later in their life, kind of just wrestling with like, oh gosh, I'm in my 50s and I'm not married. Did I miss something? And was I not faithful at some point to where like God wanted me to do something and I just decided not to do it? So it's totally a fair question. It does kind of interiorly make me uncomfortable because it's messy. Like it is really a wrestling. And I'll just say what I initially said in our prep. And I think it's just helpful to even like zoom out a little bit and just ask that question of like, does God care about my vocation? Like, does he actually have a plan for my life? And so obviously all three of us think he does. Like, so God created me as a plan for me, and he's my father. So his plan is good and is very unique and personal to me. Sometimes I'll run into people who have a hard time believing that, which is just maybe a whole nother conversation, but that's just like, if God doesn't really care, then it's like, why should I care kind of thing. So I do really believe like there should be the starting point should be this beautiful, like in love, God made me and created me and has a plan for my life, and his plan is good. And then he gives me, through the power of my baptism and the grace in my life, everything I need to do to be set free and to follow him. And so then therefore, in that experience of freedom and being detached from my own stuff, I can more and more say yes to him. So in that notion, like it's important as we become of age, if you will, in the church and in our following of the Lord, like those questions of starting in high school and college, like, oh gosh, Lord, how'd you make me? Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And so that discernment parents should teach kids how to discern and how to ask God, oh God, like you made me, you created me, like what is your plan for my life? Right. So I don't think that those questions are as common as they should be, about teaching people how to do that. But then you get into this like, well, we have brothers all the time. Like I as a postulant novice, and a novice discerns out. So it's like, oh gosh, what was that all about? Like he came in with a real strong desire to be a CFR, and 2 years in, he's discerned as he experiences more freedom and healing in his life, that he was just supposed to be here for a time. Like, so what was that all about? Did he screw something up, or did God just want to use him for a time here? And so the discernment seems to be more ongoing, which I think is a real gift. But I couldn't agree with you more. Like the reality of that, once I make a commitment, that's my vocation, And so I just, the couple that just came through, that just got married, and I said, how do you guys feel that you're not discerning anymore? How do you feel that like you wake up every day and you're married, and that this is God's will for your life, and that I think a lot of people have anxiety in their life, like because they don't really know God's will for them, but there was just real freedom in this couple. Like, yeah, this is God's will for me, So even if it's tough, or even if something happens, or even, no, this is what God wants, and you can't miss that if you're just faithful to it every day. I don't know if that's helpful to at least to start. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very, very well said. When we were in seminary, I heard one of the priests reflect on this being called to the priesthood and the whole discernment thing. And there's a part in the ordination, right, where someone's called to orders. And he just made this comment that that's the church's like official time where they're like, this person has a vocation. Like they stand up, their name is said, and the rector says, basically in the name of the church, I tell you that this man's prepared. And the priest said, if they didn't have a vocation before that, they have one now, because the church speaks in authority that this man is ready to receive ordination. But it's a similar thing for marriage. Like, okay, Father Benedict said, we kind of do our lousy best to be faithful to what God is doing. And when you meet this person, you're engaged, the church helps you prepare, you say yes, and you enter into a covenant, right? So the church says, okay, like no matter what happened before this, we're saying yes to this covenant that will last for the rest of your life, right? So there's just so much confidence that the church does provide for clarity and vocation. Like once you say yes, or what was your line? Once you say yes, like it's... I don't know, maybe that if the vocation you entered into. Yeah, the vocation you entered into, right? So that's a real thing. But maybe at the same time, just saying that I know this has causes a lot of anxiety for people. Like people want to know that God has a plan for their life. People experience their vulnerability. And again, we use this God recalculate, right? I think God's recalculating in life all the time. Like we go discern this community, they say no. And you're like, oh man, well, okay, God's using that. Mm-hmm. You have to tell young men no all the time or redirect them. Well, it's okay. Like I thought I had a CFR vocation, but God, I just have to radically trust that God is using my desire. I'm discerning well. Brothers and sisters, if you're praying and you're living in communion with God, you can't miss your vocation. You can't,
for sure.
Like God is so good and so faithful. God infinitely desires your fulfillment more than you do, right? And he's radically attentive. And so that's why the conversion and the growing in prayer and the sensitivity to his voice, even after like some difficulties, whether it's sin or struggle, or whether it's like a difficult relationship, like you had to break up with this girl, or recently thinking about my own story, we had some friends visit and we were talking about like our own journeys and right, like I dated in high school and in college, and I ran away from seminary, and then I dated again. And it's like, it's just so funny because you look back and you're like, Lord, like what happened? Like why? But God used it all. Mm-hmm. Right. And he recalculated and he was patient with me. And the girl I was dating was patient with me, and she's way more holy than I'll ever be. But we were all trying to seek God's will together, but God worked it out. And as I look back, I could be like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And I tell people in high school or college to be careful be careful if you seriously date someone without really asking these questions of discernment. But that's just to say God used it all. And I think again, it's just, there's a wonderful mystery. It's not just a human thing. It's a divine thing. There's grace. And so I just want people to know that if you're growing and you're living in communion, you can't miss your vocation.
Yeah, you don't have to be afraid.
You don't have to be afraid. Yeah. But it's messy.
Are you going to add something?
Go for it.
Maybe an edgy twist. There's this definitely in young adults that today as well. Last issue, I referenced the zeal, the intensity of missionaries, and like, we're going to go for it. We're going to be holy. We're going to be saints, which is awesome. They kind of have this like, well, religious and priesthood are the higher call, so I'm going to discern the higher call as well. And so like, well, that's what I want to do if this is the higher call. And it's like to just a new twist on your point, like the higher call is the call you're actually like what God has done in your life, not some objective, like, well, the monastic life is a higher call, so I'm just going to go and be in a monastic life. No, that's not your higher call. If you're called to diocesan priesthood, you're called to marriage, right? And so we got to protect ourselves and kind of, get away from this kind of like, well, I'm just going to do the hardest thing and the best thing. Well, that might not be God's will for your life. And God's plan for you and his unique desire for you is the highest call for your life. That's where the most grace will be, and where God will sustain you and allow you to be faithful. But I run into it all the time, especially especially sometimes guys on the phone discerning, like, so why, what draws you to religious life, you know? And in their zeal, they're just like, well, Father, just like, I just want to go for it. It's a higher call than the rest. And so I just feel like, hey, this is what I should do. That's fine for discernment, but it's interesting. It's not as mature in that way when you have no real depth in like what God is actually doing, where you just feel like, no, this is hard. This is saints. This way of life makes saints. And so I'm just going to go do it. And so it's just a funny conversation where you're like, bro, like what God actually has planned for your life is the best thing for you, rather than some objective, like, my favorite saint lived this way, so I'm going to live this way.
Right.
You know, and I don't want to squash enthusiasm or zeal, but I do run into it often where people just want to do the best, hardest thing. And that's the way they're going to do this. And you're like, well, that might not be God's will for you.
Right. Yeah. And the higher call conversation in like a theological space. And like, there is a place for that in the church, and there's a reason theologians have that, but it's a different conversation than what is God calling me to. Yeah. Right. And God, I would say like, a call is, or a vocation is actually a subjective thing. It's like per person. It's not just like this objective thing. Similarly, I do think that like did I miss vocation, whatever. It's not just like a all or nothing, one or done. You hit it or you missed it. It's like, okay, well, the more helpful question is like, okay, like what's God
doing?
What's the call today, right now? And right, it could be, it's to love your vocation as a priest, to if like if a guy or girl broke up with you, okay, maybe the call is like, okay, go through the healing and then find somebody else and pursue marriage with another person. And that's like the invitation. And it's not to like dwell on this, oh no, did I screw it up? Is everything wrong? That's just not helpful.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a constant invitation to trust.
Right.
Like that God is good and he's not going to hold out on you.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're in marriage and you have kids and you're mourning the or grieving, like, oh man, I really felt called to the priesthood when I was in college. But God will be faithful to you. He will not hold out on your fulfillment and the holiness and what you desire. He will he will be faithful to you. Yeah. And just to ask the Lord to come into that place of grieving. And I want to have a great reverence here, because I think it's worthy of I just kind of go back to this notion of trust, because again, with our humanity and our suffering and kind of the fragility of humanity, sometimes like you can be on a road and then suddenly we know a common priest in Lincoln. He was married, newly married, right? And he was in a car accident and his wife died. And then years later, he feels called, like he feels called to the priesthood. And he is just an incredible witness. You're like, whoa, like that is an incredible reverent mystery that we don't understand how God worked that out and in the place of all that. And I would never pretend to speak about like kind of the difficulty and the sacredness of that. But God is there. God is faithful. And through his witness, he's like, okay, he said yes to this and he gave his whole heart. And the suffering that happens but it also God was with him and faithful. And now he experienced a call to the priesthood, right? And God is using every bit of his story in all the twists and turns to help him be faithful and help him live the holiness he's called to. But it's an incredible mystery. Like, and that's what's beautiful about his witness, is that sometimes it's not like what you think it is, or how it doesn't turn out how you think. But if we're faithful, God will always uses everything for it all works out for the good of those who love him.
I think it's interesting too, though. It's just important. So if people are asking those questions, can I miss it, or have I missed it, or what am I doing? I'm a little distracted. I'm a little discouraged because it's like, oh gosh, maybe I'm in my 30s and haven't found my vocation yet. Like, we're not aimlessly floating out in some vocational universe trying to find our way, right? And so whatever you might be feeling or whatever questions you might be asking on your journey, like, what God is doing in the moment is the place to start. The reality in your life right now, your relationship with God right now, what he's doing right now can anchor you in, okay, Lord, like I feel tempted to be like, man, I've missed something, or I'm getting older, so maybe I'm not going to be married, or I'm older, so I'm losing opportunities to do something, whatever it might be. Like, so what do? Well, I just, like Father Innocent just said, take a deep breath and anchor myself in the moment. Okay, Lord, you're still here. And you have a plan for my life, and your plan is good. And so I'm gonna move forward, trusting you, rather than be like, man, like I'm on some train out of town here, and there's no stops along the way, So just to be at peace about that and confident about that, and to be able to just to focus a little bit on that.
Yeah. And I think I was kind of on that same page. It's not particularly helpful to always be like dwelling and second guessing the past. There is obviously some place for examination and reflection, but where we want to live is the present. And so it's like the most important question, like what's the call today? Like what's the Lord calling me to today? Yeah. And it could be to love my spouse or to love my, whatever, my flock, or to kind of do the healing, pursuing another potential spouse, whatever. But it's like, okay, like what's the Lord inviting you today? All right, Lord, I trust in you. I trust in your resourcefulness. I trust in your capacity to provide and to provide like a fruitful and fulfilling vocation or life. So like what's God calling?
And once you said yes, rock it. Like go all in for it.
Yeah. As Father Andrew said, the Lord who heard you say yes doesn't want to now hear you say no, or something like that. Something like that. Beautiful. But all right. Okay. These are hotter takes, but not shorter takes necessarily, not quick takes. All right. So this is a quick just follow up from Father Isaac conversations. You guys been praying with anybody?
I mean, I'm pretty consistently praying with postulants and our neighbors. But
you pray for them for healing, or you just pray for... That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about signs and wonders.
Right. Yeah. No, not necessarily.
Okay.
You asking for healing over there for your people?
Bro, just in it. It's great.
So yes, you do that.
Definitely.
And that was already something you were doing pretty regularly.
Yeah, but it's definitely kind of picking up a little bit. So just trying to be faithful to that.
Yeah. Because that's a little something I added is like, again, at training or something like that, where I'm meeting with people all the time. One of the things that might come up is like, oh, here's this health thing. Here's whatever. It's like, oh, okay.
Just ask the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it cool if we just kind of ask for the Lord's healing? Nothing dramatic, nothing too like whatever, but like, beautiful. So I kind of tried to put it into practice in that way.
Sweet.
Brother Mariano threw out his back yesterday, and I just, in kind of like a passing, I was like, did anybody pray with you? He was like, no. I was like, well, let's just ask Jesus. Because, and thinking about this, like, we just need to get used to like, he went to the doctor to get, like muscle relaxers, super important, probably very helpful. But let's just ask the Lord, like, Lord, come and heal him. Like, so we did. It was just funny. It was like, all right, let's get in there.
Yeah. And a couple of kind of follow-ups is I do think that, kind of what I envision, for example, for like a family, it's just like, okay, maybe we're going to have our night prayer. We're going to have intentions. Oh, like little Charlie, like scratched his knee. Can we like as a family go and ask Jesus to heal that? Or, I do think there's a way in which you can like do it and start to like pass it down to people. That's like very simple and organic. But it's also, I do think it is, you just looking at the Gospels, looking at the life of Jesus, looking at the history of the church and the saints, like, healing's a thing and it's a fruitful thing. And there's just a lot of people with a lot of stories and they've borne a lot of fruit. It's not everything, but it is certainly part of what the Lord's been doing in the last 2,000 years.
It's certainly undeniable. Just you open the gospel, he's healing all the time. So
yeah. And so I do think that, because there's like, okay, we do that and then we do that. Okay, now how do we do that? Okay, like just as a family, whatever, again, like your spouse gets a flu. Okay, I'm going to get you some NyQuil. I'm going to get you like a little whatever you need. And I'm going to say a prayer asking Jesus to heal you. And in faith, we're going to ask for that. I think that's something. A couple of just things I was reminded of is my patron is Blessed Mark of Aviano. And it's similar with a lot of the blesseds. I don't know if your guys have the same things. We all have Capuchin blesseds.
Mine's a saint, actually.
Has a saint.
Excuse me. Sorry. Who was canonized in the last
10 years? 2017.
I don't know about you guys, but Mark of Aviano had because he was like a preacher and was going around. He was like a ton of people were getting healed out of stuff. Thousands of people were coming to his stuff, and there's like a lot of people getting healed. So it's still like it's very much within the tradition. There's like a lot of our Capuchin saints were just like
rocking it,
dropping fools in there. Yeah, and that's like there's all those things of like, oh, all these crutches held up or whatever, all that sort of stuff. I think Mark Babiano was one of those guys.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my thing.
Just to add something, I moved though. Remember, just one of the Father Isaac's like pivotal lines was just like the increase in faith allows us to step out rather than like concentrating on like, oh man, I need to ask for a gift. Or I need to ask for something that but it's just more of in your relationship with Jesus, I just have faith in you, Lord, that you're going to work in my life.
Yeah.
And so taking step out, and that was like almost freeing, like to pray for faith every day that I just trust that Jesus wants to work in my life.
Beautiful.
And then therefore, whatever comes out of that whether it's just stepping out in faith for someone in healing or whatever like that. I was just moved by that.
Yeah. And part of the conversation and reflecting on it, like reminded me of how I actually experienced it. And it gave me maybe some language. Because there is a thing, and it started kind of almost like 10 years ago, where I would just hear some stories of like a couple, who were like struggling with infertility and really wanted a child. And they've been married for 5 years and they're doing everything they can. And all they want is like a child. And there's something about it like that deeply like moved my heart. And like I began praying for these people. And over the years, again, because it's what's important is I'll just say that over the years, it's when this happens, there's not a situation where they didn't conceive and have a child.
Love it.
And there are these things like, okay, we've been trying again and trying everything for 5 years and nothing's working. And then I don't talk to them again for like, literally this one situation. I didn't talk to them in 5 years. Oh yeah. How is whoever doing? Oh yeah, they're good. And I was like, oh, do they have any kids? Yeah, they have a 5-year-old who, whatever. And it's like the exact timing lines up. And it's beautiful. And it's happened a few times. And part of what Father Isaac talked about is how like when him and Brother Benedict Joseph were out, like he's praying with people and there's like an expectation, like something's going to happen. And in these situations when I'm praying for these people, there is this like a confidence in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Father Isaac kind of used the language, like sometimes there is this like this gift of faith where it's not, because a lot of people I'm praying with, it's like, okay, well, ask Jesus if he wants to heal this or heal that. But with these, it's like, I don't like tell them this. I don't want to presume. I'm not quite there, but I'm like, this is going to happen. And like, let's watch, let's wait and see. And it happens. How it doesn't work though, is just like, there is that whole interior movement of like some sort of sense or conviction that this, so you can't just send me all of your like, pray for Susan or whatever. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work, but
and it's just because you're being led, like what God presents to you in the place. And
do you guys have anything like that?
I love the confidence of like very particular anointings. Like I just it's very clear who God sends, and you're like, oh yeah, this is something that God usually does, and here I am, which is just such a gift, I think.
And it kind of gives me like, it's like, oh, is this that whole like patron saint of stuff kind of thing? Because he's like, oh, because I seem in a particular area to have like being able to pray for something and something happens. Like, is that kind of like
how that works?
And I think those are what we call charism. Like charism, you start to notice the works of the Holy Spirit, right? So healing is a charism, or there's a whole list of them. But I think it's beautiful because you start to notice like, oh man, when I pray for that, that happens. Like there is a sign or wonder associated.
Yeah.
Right. So,
or you pray for that and you're like, that didn't happen. Definitely. Which you experienced too.
You're like, it got worse.
Oh yeah. We're not going to do that one.
You had to call the ambulance after I prayed with you?
Sorry.
One of the funny things that happens, I noticed it in a previous episode, is I'm saying like, yeah, there's this round thing and it goes on like a car and it has like and it spins around and it helps you move. And then Father Innocent's like, yeah, that's called a wheel. And here's what it means. Like, but you do that with like spiritual things. That's called a charism, or that's called this. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it's called. Thanks.
I don't mean to be like, that's what we're doing here.
It's helpful. It's like, oh, he knows specifically what we're talking about. Okay, great.
I didn't mean to come across. I wasn't like,
no.
I was just adding.
It makes me grow in respect for you. And then I don't think we have to overdo this, but just again, that there is like, none of this like is... This all is harmonious with our understanding of redemptive suffering and the tradition of the saints going all the way back of like certain people being invited to be like victim souls and being invited to suffer.
And suffering is never wasted. We don't run away from suffering.
Sure.
We trust, we have faith, but we also receive what God is doing.
Yeah. Great. This one can be a little bit quicker because it's pretty consistent with maybe the first one. So just life as a struggle, make sure it's the right struggle. And I mean that particularly in relationships, right? Like, if you have roommates, if you have people you work with, if you're married, you can't fight every single battle, or you're just going to lose influence and people are going to just shut you down. And maybe we all have these kind of situations where it's like, okay, I've tried to worry about so-and-so and to be concerned about what's happening. It didn't work. Okay. What I just have to do now, what I'm going to do is like, I'm not worried about so-and-so. I'm going to do what I need to do and just not even factor them in. And you don't want to be that guy where it's like, okay, Aunt Susan's always going to be doing this. we're not going to listen to Aunt Susan. You know, I mean, you want to still maintain relationship and influence. The Jocko language, right, that we've used here is talking about like whatever, like relationship capital, like, or leadership capital is what he uses. It's like, okay, like each time you're picking a fight, you're like spending some of your influence on this person, right? And if you're picking every single fight, eventually, I like that, you're gonna end up kind of having nothing in your influence bank account.
And it's let's just say this, and I accuse myself first, but it's really difficult to live with people like that. It's difficult to live with people who are constantly being critical and picking every fight,
especially when you have to lead us. Especially, it's really hard to lead and really hard to be the person who's trying to love everybody and keep everybody together, where someone's always negative and critical.
Sure. Like I think we just have like there's real struggles that we should fight, but it's just good to know that like, hey, we're human and we're broken and it's not perfect, right? So we have to do a lot of accepting of each other where we're at. It is the long game.
Yeah,
like we want to be invested in people and walk with people, but this is going to take time. And so like, what's the most important thing? What's the battle we want to fight together right now? And like, I was talking to the Postulants one recently, he was kind of overwhelmed. And I'm like, what's the most necessary thing we need to focus on right now?
Yeah.
A lot of other things, let's just put aside. Those will come. But what's the most necessary thing we need to do for your growth and in your confidence in Jesus?
Right.
I guarantee the people that you move you in your life, that seem to have peace and confidence in kind of rest in who they are and the truth of who they are, and they're influencers in that way. They don't get upset over small things, you know, and they don't like go with the storms of life and the storms of personalities and the storms every day of just things driving them crazy. So it's like, find those people you're like, oh gosh, they definitely are. I think sometimes people are like, Father, how do you just remain at peace in the midst of a lot of crazy things or whatever might be going on? How does that not upset you? Or, oh, she drives me crazy. How, you know, stuff like that. And there's something deeper happening where you don't have to jump in at every argument or jump in with every agenda and get all upset about different things, you know? I just think it's important to be like, oh gosh, I really admire people around me, but they're never upset. Like, I wonder what that's all about. Like, instead of just like, oh gosh, I get upset about all sorts of things every day that just kind of steal my peace and rob me of a confidence in the Lord.
Right. And so some examples I think could be kids maybe, or somebody you live with can't remember to turn off the lights when they leave a room. It's like, okay, is that the fight? Like, is that or, you know, in the midst of everything, is that the one that you need to like keep freaking out about? And or it's, cause I think one of our priests talked about, like, you can have, like, you're allowed to have like one pet peeve, but that's like it or something like that in community life. And there is something, cause if
we all have our thing for sure.
So here's a list, video games. So again, there's like a balance. Like if video games are in the house and it's generally a husband thing. Like, okay, is that the battle? Is that the battle?
It's a good question.
Going out to buy coffee, which is not financially like a great thing to do. Is that the battle you want to pick with somebody you share bank accounts with? Taking a long time in the bathroom, you know, is that one?
Long showers.
Taking baths. That's a really funny one that sometimes happens. Is just, there's like, because we know couples who like did it right and they don't live together beforehand and then they get married, and there's a number of examples of like the husband takes baths and they're like, they don't like like the wife like doesn't know what to do with that. It's like they take baths every morning. It's like,
like,
is that the battle? Is that really the battle?
Like, all right, bath? Like,
yeah, bath.
Like really a bath, like fills up the tub, kind of chills in the bath. That's what a bath is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to know I had that right.
So just for those of you who are doing marriage right, congratulations. You might have some surprises when you get married, but it's fun.
Yeah, and it's a really good question. Like, what battles are we going to pick?
Like, do we put the toilet paper over the top or under, or totally. Like, how do we roll the toothpaste? Do you push wherever you want?
And what do you want to get upset?
Does the rosary go over the top or under the?
Ridiculous.
We helped the Postulants get fitted in their habits, and I was a lot more open to Father Mark Mary's opinion this year than past years.
It was an opportunity for the men to choose alliance. Like, okay, who
are you with?
Who's team Father Mark Mary? Who's team Father Innocent?
It's weird. Father Mark Mary brought like 6 or 7 vests with him, black vests, and kind of.
I invested a few, passed on the great tradition, but you had to earn it.
Yeah, you definitely.
And I made sure those who didn't earn it knew it. All right, last one. This is not going to be a conversation, just be a quick little thing. And the spirit of it is this: St. Francis has this thing about the brothers aren't to look down upon those who, I don't remember the exact quote, but who like wear fine clothes and eat rich foods or whatever. So this isn't from like I don't intend this to be just from a place of judgment, but just an observation. Is just to kind of be checked, like take a look at unnecessary buying of stuff, particularly with online shopping. It's just really easy to do. Click some buttons, and there's a lot of like, we'll get it and we'll see what happens, or just buying things in bulk that you don't. I'm gonna buy like it's just so easy to buy stuff, and it feels good to buy stuff, and it feels good to get new stuff, but just to keep into context like the state of the world and those who are poor, and so like have some checks and balances. For example, I really do think like a really helpful check and balance is like, okay, obviously there's some things that are urgent, but if it's not an absolute like necessary urgent household thing, to like have something sit in your cart for 24 hours, between 24 and 48 hours, just to make sure it's not an impulse buy.
And you're discerning and kind of
And because all of those websites and everything is so psychologically like manipulative, it's trying to get you to pull the trigger and to just like, you need this thing now. And like, just fight back on that psychological manipulation. Take 24 hours, 48 hours, let all of that sort of settle, and then be like, okay, do I still want this? And then if you do, cool. Or a fun little thing is you can like have like give yourself like a poor tax. So it's like, okay, for every $1 I spend on clothes or whatever, I have to like, for every $10, I'm going to give $1 to the poor.
I like that.
You know what I mean? And so just like a little something where it's like, okay, maybe not saying you can't do it, whatever, but like just to keep in mind the poor, particularly as you're buying stuff.
Nice one.
I like it.
Cool. Anything else for right now?
No, that was a good hot takes. Long takes. Or
medium takes. Some medium takes, some longer takes, some shorter takes.
That's good.
And we'll just kind of do our mugs next episode. And thanks everybody for listening, and continue if you'd like us to kind of hit our final goal to with monthly donors. If you go to spiritjuice.org/poco, and of course you can watch the videos at Spirit Juice's on Spirit Juice's YouTube channel. And we're grateful for you.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for your support.
And
sweet.
See you next week.
All right.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.
Poco a poco vamos a llegar. Somos peregrinos, and you know that's who we are. We make our way. Hey, hey. Little by little we learn a little more each day, that God is love, that life is short, that all will be well.